Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Mayhem or master plans? What do we got today?
I
would
guess
say
it's always
mayhem.
depending on the person. I can give you a little bit of mayhem. I can give you a bit of mayhem. I'm in Berlin right now, and besides, I got the devil in my ears. I bought new headphones by the brand name Teufel.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it translates to devil. So
it does. It does. Are they devilishly good?
Yes, they're quite good. They're quite good. The other thing, I bought this. It's called Hanyan Korean Bites, and I bought a red bean iced latte. How Berlin can it get?
Yeah, that's pretty close to peak Berlin.
Something else is called Well Mix energy drink, sugar-free, from this event location that I went to. So really a fancy new energy drink. So I got everything. I got all the latest gadgets. So I'm like super immersed in the Berlin scene. And then on top of that mayhem, I can give you something else. I played soccer yesterday, and I got bitten by horseflies, and it's terrible. Like in both of my legs, and like my knees are terribly swollen.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your plight, but
no, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's quite bad, actually.
Mm.
No, it's like it is kind of like swollen, where it's like it's weird. I had it the week before too. I don't know what's happening. Maybe I need to.
Are you putting anything on it, or are you just waiting for it to go away?
Waiting and scratching. That's
yes.
Scratching is bad. You shouldn't scratch it because my son did it and he got an infection from that. So he had to go on antibiotics because like his little dirty kid's fingers, and they're always kind of like dirty. He was scratching and then it got infected. So don't scratch it. Just leave it. Dang. Ignore it.
Okay.
I have a question regarding your.
When they get older, they just ignore pain, right? Till they drop dead at some point. I'm fine. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question regarding your red beans drink. What are red beans? Is it something like in German, like kidney beans?
Kidney beans, right?
Kidney beans.
No,
I'm guessing
they're sweet, but they're red beans, like Asian. They're somewhere from.
Okay,
like,
they are
you get it in
different
China as well. You get it in Korea. It's like you get this red bean paste also, and this
right.
Like,
yes.
So you get red bean paste. It's kind of sweet, and so you get a drink with it as well. It's quite nice, actually.
Okay.
So what is the latest food trend in New York?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, the latest conversation recently was still about halal food and the price of halal food, because the mayoral candidate, Zoran Mamdani, it kind of went out and talked a little bit about how everything got less affordable, which is his theme.
What was his claim again? Make halal $8 again, or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. But it was really interesting because I don't know if you guys happened to see snippets of it or perhaps the entire thing that they produced. So he did interview some of the vendors there, and basically it came down to the permitting and the fact that some people own the licenses and they rent out these licenses. So some of these vendors basically have to pay someone who's just sitting in an apartment, collecting his money, that they can be out there with their little stand. And so, I mean, it's peak capitalism, of course, right? But the prices of these licenses and this permitting basically pushed things significantly higher.
I would disagree on that point very much, that it's peak capitalism, because I think it is exactly where capitalism went wrong, where like it's not about like, because I think it's also not what the American dream was about, like, from
correct,
where it's like you work hard and then you get successful, and then you can become a millionaire, right?
Yes, but you also have to realize that
when you look at financial markets and like just like you're owning a space that you're not even owning the space. You're just having a license that you give away. It's kind of like that passive income idea where it's not like you're not working for that anymore. So you're not really being productive in that space. So I totally get the point also.
I do too, but I also have different takes on that. I mean, so the one thing is, of course, this whole notion of you work hard and then you can become a millionaire, from the dishwasher to the millionaire type of thing, is really something that is largely a myth, which is perpetuated by those who would like you to work hard, which is usually the guys who are already millionaires, right? So let's not ignore that part. But the other thing is, so you guys remember, our listeners might remember, so my background is in photography, and artists in general, it doesn't matter if music or photography or anything else, lives off of copyright and licensing to some extent. Some artists, of course, produce tangible pieces of art and they sell those. But especially in photography and in this kind of content, you tend to shoot something and then license the use of it. And you
created that initial piece of content first,
correct,
right?
Correct.
So
you created that initial
like
piece.
Owning
you
a license.
Put in some work. Exactly. However, you can, of course, sell that, right? You can either rent out your property, the image and your rights, to an agency who then licenses it on your behalf, which is a perfectly fine business case and example. And of course, you can do the same thing in other ways. You could perhaps buy somebody else's material. You could buy an archive from, I don't know, a photographer who has just passed away or something like that from their heirs. And at that point, you own the rights to that. You're the rights holder and you can license that out. It's true that you then didn't put in the work initially, somebody else did. But at least there is still a connection of some work that was connected. This whole thing about licensing and permits, it's the same thing with taxi medallions, by the way. So the permits here in the city in New York for taxis are also very expensive, and because they're limited, and people who own one of them, some of them drive their own taxi, most of them don't. Most of them either own a bunch of these medallions, run a number of cabs, and basically employ people to drive them, ideally 24 hours around the clock, because if a cab is not moving, then it's not making money. And then there are these same kind of setups similar to I don't know, hair salons, yeah, right, where the individual hairdresser rents a chair. So somebody built out the salon and the infrastructure, and the person who is actually providing the service is renting out their chair, just like you could, as a driver, rent a cab for a while. So there's a couple of different setups of this, and in general, I think it's fine to either do this yourself and work as the hot dog vendor yourself or the halal vendor, or to employ others, or to rent out the permission. In general, I don't see an issue with that. In practice, it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah.
And
Simon,
if my halal food goes out over $10, then that's just terrible.
That's just terrible. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Simon, did you have any master plans, or did you have any mayhem going on your end?
On my end, I would say mayhem, but I don't want to start talking about the weather. But the weather here is quite tense right now.
Hot. Caliente.
How hot?
60s, 63. No, what? 36 degrees centigrade.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Okay. Celsius. Yeah, and
63 would be terrible.
63
in centigrade, yes.
Yeah.
In Madrid is nearly 40 degrees. So I'm a bit outside of Madrid. Here is it not that hot, but
In the cooler, luxurious outskirts. Okay.
Yeah.
All the private pools are cooling it down, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
There you go. Did you bring a topic for this week?
A small one, and it fits quite good into in our small talk because a friend of mine.
The microphone again. It's again the microphone thing.
A friend of mine is closing his bar. His bar. He has a bar, mostly I think for dancing. So a bit eating. They have a small snacks there, but a dancing and drinking bar. And and so I followed him on Instagram, and it looked like that the bar was, I would say, okay successful, right? So there were often, the live music, and it was often full of people. And I'm questioning myself. I haven't asked yet what was the reason why he's closing. Was it at the end? And I have to say, he's in a group of, or he's a shareholder of a small group. I think most of them are friends from the bar and discotheque scene and restaurant scene here in Madrid, and they have several locations open. I think one restaurant, that bar which is now closing, and I think another bar, and I'm pretty sure they will open another bar. And what would you think? Why are they closing? Is it because it's too complex? Is it because they don't make enough profit out of it, or maybe they have to pay by they make
I mean, I can imagine a variety of reasons, right? Do you have any more insights? So is this like a quiz for us, and you'll then tell us who?
No.
Really,
it's
just,
an open
just
question. It's an open question because I think I think they are closing it because it don't make enough profit.
The usual issue
they
that
think we can do better, and we need a different concept. They were in a quite pricey location or area.
I was just gonna talk about that. I think the usual issue with most of these kinds of things, when something seems to be running well, and when something seems to be going okay, right, and then suddenly they're like, oh, by the way, we're closing. It's usually down to rent increases. It's often that the landlord, whoever owns the actual venue, has decided that a lease is up, or it is now time to ask for more money or something, right? No. It's very rare, I think. The thing is, most of these restaurateurs, they are in it with their hearts and minds, and sure, of course, also their money, but they really love what they do. Most of them do. And so this notion of saying, okay, we have all these other activities going on, and we need more time, we need to focus on something, so let's close down. Perhaps let's close down perhaps the one that is least profitable, or has been around longest, or is not as exciting anymore. I think that's extremely rare. That's a business move that managers make. That's something where cold hard numbers and spreadsheets often rule. And making such a decision is perfectly fine. Evaluating where your time and resources of any kind, be it time or money, are best spent is a great business move. Absolutely. But I think in most instances, because they kind of are attached so much to the thing that they build, they rarely do that until financial pressure is really high. And so, I think
but because
it's probably that
they are a group, right? A group of I think they are 6 or 7 or maybe even more, and they have kind of 3 who are responsible for everything, and the other ones are more they gave the shareholders, I would say, and he was a shareholder and the manager of that bar. But I think the most decision are made by the 3
by the other guys.
With the other guys, and I think in that kind of in that kind of situation, I think I can see that they were, so I would say, professional and say, okay, we can do better. It's not making enough money. Let's yeah.
And ultimately, that's smart, right?
Yeah.
If you can already see a downward slope in revenues or an upward slope in cost, whatever it is. So basically, if you see your profit trending towards zero or below in slightly longer terms, making a cut and putting a stop to any losses that might come up or that might already be happening is smart, of course. So, yeah, it very likely is that.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Which means you should have gone there more often and drank more beer.
That was my plan. The weekend, Max and a friend of us invite.
Came over to Madrid. Yeah.
Came over to Madrid. Yes, but then I texted him. So what do I have to do? Not standing in the line in the queue to enter your bar, and then he answered, "Oh, we are closing it." Blah blah blah. Yeah.
But then think about it. Like I just did the rough estimation, a rough calculation. So I think like that's where you get into kind of like the nitty gritty. But just a rough estimation. If you just go on an idea of like you're 30 days open a month, you have on average 50 guests because you're probably very packed on a Saturday and Friday, and you're like 5 days out, like Friday, Saturday. Maybe in Spain, it's the Sunday might be also still okay, above average.
But Tuesday morning is going to be empty, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So so let's go on the average of like 50 guests a day, and they spend on average $20. So that is like 30,000 that you do in a month. But then let's assume drink cost is 10%. Like, and then that's 3,000. Labor is 30% of the cost. That's another 9,000. And let's assume like it's a pretty good location. Then I'm just guessing 6,500 just for rent. Then you're already like 18,500 in of the 30,000. So, and then there's a ton of costs that you like insurance, overhead, and a bunch of other stuff if you have a live band. So the profit goes down super fast. And then if you're just turning, I don't know, like a few $100, or any deviation, 2 weeks, the weather is bad, then you're already 1 month down. So you're losing money in a month. And then you go through the year, then December is not the time. So the time frame that you can make money on this is I think the difficulty. And I come from a family that worked a lot in like in the hospitality industry. And one of the main things is the moment you're not in there working yourself, it's gonna be super tough making money. Like if you're not in there working, ideally you and your partner, because you're gonna have terrible working hours. So like if you want to spend any time together, the second biggest thing is if you don't own the property that you're doing it from.
Exactly.
Again, like
the rent is like usually the thing that's
exactly
that kills
so.
You.
And then, I think there's still a lot of money in bars and restaurants. I think there's like if you come with it, like if you have a right format and concept and you work efficiently and you get the right people, I think you can still turn a nice profit. You're probably not going to get rich from it, but you can do something like exactly what you mentioned. Like you do something you love. If you work with people, but the business side of it, it's if you boil it down to that, it's tough. Everything that you do in kind of like the service industry, you can go from restaurants to hairdressers to I don't know what where it's really dependent on. So and that's kind of like the big issue, right? You want to have a business that's like if you're dependent on the people walking by your stores or in a convenient location that people know where you are, it's going to be very expensive. So you have high cost initially, but if you're not there, then you won't have trouble getting them, or you're very. There's a great story by a company in Germany called Picture People. I don't know if you know it, Andreas. They're like the photo studios, like they build it out of like this Photoshop, like this photo studio.
What an imaginative name, Picture People.
Oh,
I'm
it's a
sorry.
consumer-facing brand, so it makes like it. Don't go overboard on it. It's like that's what people understand. It's picture people, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a great name for like a business like that. And they initially had like super nice locations in like very central city centers and stuff like that. The brand now is big enough, and they've seen that people like do like family photo shoots or corporate photo shoots for like the portrait and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so they usually come with a bunch of people, so they are looking for parking spots. And the
Okay.
brand name now is big enough, so they're moving out of all of these like very central locations. They focus much on online marketing and go into much cheaper location in those like out of like outside city
Outskirts.
centers,
Yeah.
outskirts,
Mhm.
where you have like a supermarket. Like in the US, it would be
Yeah.
like where you have a Walmart and then all the
Yep.
adjacent businesses. You have free parking. It's very easy to get to, and
Mhm.
that is like really
Smart
improving the
move.
bottom line. So it's a very
Yeah.
smart move to kind of like decide on, okay, we're going to keep a few locations, so
Yeah.
but as a marketing thing, but the rest of the operation that is going to turn profits, we're moving that out.
But your local neighborhood bar can't do that, right?
Exactly.
They can't move out to the outskirts, even if there's great parking. And if you have great parking, then the whole selling beer type of thing is going to be a
Exactly.
problem
So
for a lot of
like yeah.
drivers, right? Yeah. So
So you need to
that's the
find
thing.
other ways, like I don't know, brew your own, like get good
Well, I
quality
mean,
products that you can like
Refill the
the
cheap
the
cola
smartest,
in the expensive cola bottle.
well, the
water it
smartest
down.
move is of course, by those who actually own buildings and who are in these buildings for a long time and perhaps have had the chance to buy out their slot and purchase
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
interesting. So it is definitely more complicated than it looks on the first sight, right?
Yeah,
Having a
always is.
bar or a restaurant.
100%. Oh yeah, it's yeah. I think it's a very like it like my family always says like, we know you're going to do this one day because we can imagine you doing this because you probably be very good at it. And I have this like inner thing where I'm like, and I used to work at
Yeah,
a
but
bar and I
you're going to
really
run a
loved it.
tiki bar on some beach.
Yeah, yeah, like it would really depend on the situation, but I could imagine myself doing this. I was looking at this great opportunity, which is like I have this like I'm dreaming a little bit every now and then, and these weeks I was dreaming, and they were selling.
This week's dream.
He's dreaming about being an real estate tycoon.
No, but they were having they were putting this winery in Tuscany on sale for like $950,000. It's like the production is running and everything. So you're buying the estate and everything. It's super cheap because like Italy is kind of like aging, so there's like cheap houses in certain areas, and so they're trying to get people into. And so you're buying this fully functioning winery that's putting out, it's turning a nice profit, and you're buying a lot where you can kind of like increase production from like 10,000 bottles to like 30,000 bottles. So it's quite interesting. So if I was in my, let's say I was in my mid 50s, Hypecast wasn't in its like growing stage, and it was just like established as a successful business, and I knew we had great people running the operations and everything, that would be something that I would be like, hey, this is something that I would explore. Or there was another opportunity that had some like vineyard on it, and it also had some olive trees, and then doing kind of like artisanal winery and or producing grapes to make like balsamic vinegar and like olive oil, and kind of like maybe doing like a B and like Airbnb kind of type of situation, or that kind of stuff. So it would be more like that, where it's still a hospitality kind of like a bar restaurant kind of like restorational thing, but it would be something like where
I think it's a great opportunity for somebody who really wants to sink their teeth into this and who has the willpower to kind of dig into this. I think what you're describing reminds me a little, and your thinking, if I was in my mid-50s, if Hypecast wasn't in its growth stage. Reminds me of a guy I met a couple of years ago in New Zealand, who was doing exactly that. So he basically, quit his corporate job because he didn't feel like, I don't know, working 60 hours a week anymore. And now he's working 80 hours a week, but on his own vineyard.
It probably doesn't feel like it.
No, definitely not. The guy loved it. And
yeah, there you go.
And he also ran his shop very product focused in a way. So we often talk about these, the kind of operational constraints and making sure things scale and all of that, and how you can sometimes lose the focus on the product itself over it. And this guy came from that same line of thinking, and he said, you know what? A typical winery, for example, doesn't have enough space, so they need to turn over their material, their wine relatively quickly. So they harvest it, goes in the tanks, goes in the bottles, and then at a year or 2 years old, maybe 3 years old, depending on the kind of wine, you need to sell it off because you need to make room for the next year's harvest, right?
Yeah.
And the result of that is that you generally sell off very young wine that is just barely ready to drink and very often not at its peak. And the broad masses of people don't really pick up on that. In some cases, in some particular instances of wine, it's also fine.
By the way,
right?
my cousin, she's a sommelier, and she says they're called, I forgot the name, so you can buy wine like that is just came out.
Yeah.
And then you're buying it very cheap, and because the wineries don't know yet if it's going to develop into a great year or into a poor year, and you could have the chance buying,
right?
example, buying some kind of wine for, like, let's say that would usually cost around $50. You're buying it for 10, and it could go to 0 because it's going to taste like vinegar, which most likely is not going to happen. But it could turn out to be like you're having wine that's just going to be like $100, $150 because.
But even that still, so even if you keep the wine around at the winery under their control for a little while, they still sell it off relatively young, right? And it's not really at its peak of what it could be. And this guy was like, yeah, I'll sell my wine when it's ready. And so when I first met him, when I walked into that little booth on his winery, on his parking lot there, he was selling wine that was 7 or 8 years old, and everything else in the vicinity, in the wider area, you would get 2 or 3 year old wines, and they were priced high and top notch stuff. And some of them tasted already pretty good. In some cases, you could also tell that they will be really nice in another 5 years. But this guy was like, yeah, no, I'm going to give you. I mean, some of these you can still keep around for another 10. But when you buy it here, when I give you the bottle, you can uncork it and you're going to have a really pleasant moment drinking that wine right now. And the thing that we just harvested, or this thing that I just tried from 4 years ago, it's not ready yet. So I'm not selling it to you yet. And I thought that was fantastic. I love the guy. So that kind of mindset, of course, he's operating a shop that is essentially it supports him and his family. Is not turning a huge profit.
But it boils down to this to kind of like, what are you selling? Are you selling a commodity, or are you selling niche high end stuff?
Exactly.
And then he might sell less, but then he needs to adjust the price, and he will figure it out. So he kind of says, okay, I need to calculate in that it's going to be 4 years longer, so that space takes up that much time. So let's assume the bottle is not $10, it's $20.
Exactly right.
If nobody's buying it for $20, then he knows that it's not working. But if people appreciate it, then it doesn't matter, right? So it's kind of like understanding your own product continuously, and kind of like taking time to go and think about your product is a good way to go. What I wanted to like go into, because I know for me it's, so I'm always like antsy, and I always like come up with the next thing, but I know that we're running a company now and we're, early on. So, but I can't take that like thing out of me that I often have new ideas. So
Nor should you.
I
It makes you. We
no,
like
and
that
and it
about
and,
you.
and I could say like, oh, don't waste your time on this. But I do this now. I turned this into like I can't avoid doing it, so it happens anyway. So I turned this into my little like dream sessions. And I was sitting like on a Sunday with my family and my mom. She got super excited when I was telling her about this winery and kind of like creating those ideas. And she's like, yes, so go for it. It was like, no, I don't have the time. I don't have like I'm doing this company now.
Mhm.
She's like, but what did we just do? It's like that was just a kind of like a kind of like dreaming exercise, a kind of like going on to an adventure in my head. And she's like, what?
Spazieren
Why?
denken.
Yeah. And that was a fun so I do that now, and that really helps me to not get this like I need something new. It really takes that out.
Mhm.
But I would love to know, while we're on this topic, and I'm already in this like dreamers kind of like stage, and I don't want to do like if you weren't doing Hypecast or if you weren't doing like Forward Momentum. I want to go down the road and say like, okay, in 2 years' time,
Mhm.
your cup like what we're doing, what you're doing, Andreas, with Forward Momentum is so successful because you established a solid business. It's running operationally.
Mhm.
So you have more time. You maybe have installed a GM or something like that. So
Mhm.
you have some kind of like you don't have infinite funds, but you have
Mhm.
like a nice kind of like pocket change to explore something. What would it be? And let's start with Simon, because you have been quiet for the last few minutes. So what would it be like? You've done this successfully. What would be the thing that you would love to pursue? And it doesn't have to be like business wise. It's like, what would you pursue?
I think I would say something. It has something to do with agriculture or gardening or something like that. Because my family heritage is like that. So we are a family of farmers, and my father is happy. Is a gardener and is really happy about it. And and I also think I would love to to learn gardening and investing more time in it and creating gardens. I would say here, especially here in Spain, because I think it's more challenging, especially around Madrid. And they don't really have garden culture. So it is. I think the most famous culture in gardening, I think, is England, right? So the Victorian gardens,
Yeah.
and I think North Europe,
Botanical
where it's a bit
gardens
easier,
or
I
the
would say, to
Japan
create
gardens. I
a
think there's different types. Like, I guess what we
yeah,
imagine.
Mediterranean gardens are also famous, but here they don't have really big culture around gardening, and I think there's a room for
There's a
that.
very nice, huge kind of like tourist site in just outside of Palma in Mallorca, like Jardín something, and it's a family. They run it, and it's like a super like there's a nice house on it, and then like and it's kind of like they're
Yeah,
doing
but
this,
it
like
starts
taking care of that
with
like
how the
garden.
Spanish people are living, right? They're living mostly in flats, and they don't have an own
Yeah,
garden. So there are gardens. So they have palaces around the
yeah.
country with spectacular gardens. But I think the normal Joe, the average Joe, don't have a garden, and is also don't interesting
Yeah.
in gardens. But I think there's a growing demand.
Interest in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or the interest
and
that.
like where I live now, they have this like there's people investing a lot of time into gardens, and so they're doing this kind of like there's a weekend where you can just like where people open up their personal gardens to like the
Mhm.
public, so
Yeah.
you can just roam around in them and just explore them. And it's like there's
Nice.
like crazy stuff going on, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff. But being mindful of the time, Andreas, what is it? What you're going to do?
What would I do? That's a really good question. I think I've been dipping my toe more into kind of the music business recently over the last couple of months and years, and I might try and do something there. I don't think I can do something just for leisure purposes. It needs to serve a purpose of some sort. It needs to produce something. Otherwise, I'll get bored pretty quickly. So I don't know, just sitting on a beach or something I couldn't do. What that would be specifically, I don't know yet. I haven't really. I am very much focused on forward momentum at this stage, and on Hypecast and on some of the other activities that I do. But I think I've seen. I told you guys this before in I think one of the other episodes of the show that when I was on tour with my friends recently, I just saw so much potential in this whole space. I just saw so many people operating at really terrible levels of operational efficiency, quality, that kind of thing. They were all doing something, but there's just so much room to come in and make that better for everybody involved. So
I think the
maybe
music
I would look into
industry
that.
is ready for. I think the music industry is ready for revolution in a way of like it's been run by people that want to keep it as it is. And you talk to people that are musicians or in the industry, and they're like, "But there's potential here and here." And they're like, "No, like tours are too expensive," and they give you all the reasons why, like. There's still a ton of people making huge amounts of money, but the industry is dead, what they tell you. It's like, I don't believe it. I think if you just explore new ways, and I think there's potential, there's huge potential. And you're 100% right. Like, this is like everybody's trying to get into like the top 5%, and then the rest is poorly managed with, incompetent people, and a few very good ones that are struggling to kind of like building a network. I think, 100%.
Right.
I love it. Like the music industry, totally agreed. All right, everybody. Do you guys want to hear what I want to do?
No.
You
told us.
We're expecting a bottle of wine
I
in a
gave
couple
you
of years.
Tuscany.
What are you talking about? What else?
It could be a winery. Like there's really exactly. There's like it could be something. It will be something. And I always do passion things. So, but it could be a winery. It could also be something around music that I would love. So I might join you, Andreas, with the music.
All right.
I don't know.
That sounds good.
But then I love the gardening thing. Is like there's like I can find pleasure in everything.
So the gardening, the first step that you should explore is what they do here in New York very often, which is just basically people who also live in apartment buildings and have no space and no garden. They start gardening around the trees in the
urban. Is it
so
urban
the
gardening?
tiny little
Right?
plots of a little bit of space where the tree is getting air. That's where they put in a garden, and some of them are beautiful, and some of them are really amazing.
Awesome, guys. Let's close off this episode. That was fun. I love the dreaming thing, and also the topic of. We started with math on like the hospitality and ended up with like building our own gardens in New York. I love it.
There you go.
What songs were you listening to?
Good question. What was I listening to?
Do you know
recently?
the radio feature in Spotify?
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, I don't have Spotify, but yeah.
You don't have Spotify?
No,
I
I
like
don't.
it a lot. I started a radio, a Mac Miller radio from one of his tracks. And
you know where they stole this from? You remember Loud FM? This German like independent radio thing? Where you would type in your favorite band, but they only had independent music.
Loud, it was Last FM, right?
Last FM. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Last FM, where you would type in your favorite band and would just give you indie bands with the same kind of style.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And
I'm gonna blow your mind, guys.
Of a radio from that radio playlist is Joey Badass Temptation. Yeah, and it's
okay.
Do you know it? No.
No.
But it sounds a bit like Mac Miller, right? So it's a Mac Miller style, kind of.
Very good.
I actually listened to something that the partner of another business partner of mine produced recently. She released a new single together with a friend of hers, and they're calling themselves No Embarrassing Tears. And the song is called Yabai Summer Hot. And it looks like that. And it sounds nothing like what I usually listen to. So
it's not metal.
It is
but
not
the
metal
cover
at all.
also don't
It
look
is
like
not metal. It is a fun project by two ladies in New York who decided to put out a summer single because these days you can do that, and why the hell not?
I love it. I love it.
I do too.
That's what we're going to do someday. Maybe next year for Wacken, we're going to put out a metal song or something like that.
We should do that. And
we should do that. So I listened to Dielectric. This is like hip hop artist from Australia, I think. The song is called What. He's kind of like a lyricist. Sounds very old school hip hop. Small. His songs have like 1 to 2 million streams, so like a baby in this podcast sphere, but in the Spotify sphere. But yeah, that's it for Mayhem and Master Plans this week. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. Last words up to you.
Have a nice day.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We enjoy that you guys sit down and hang out with us.